Hi, today I want to talk about composing images and how a painting sort of develops on its own. Not really on its own, obviously, your brain is involved with it, but how things change as they go along is really what I want to talk about. So, my name is Kelly Borsheim. I'm a painter and a sculptor, and every once in a while I like to do something that for me is a little bit out of my comfort zone. So I decided that this spring I was going to participate in these one-day painting competitions. And the reason that's a challenge for me is I'm not usually competitive with other people. I know that's the reality of life, but I don't I don't look at other people's art and think, oh, I have to be better than, or I'm worse than the, I don't think about that. I mean, of course, a part of you does, but I don't have it in my thoughts too much. Usually I'm trying to push myself to get closer to what I envision, what I want my art to be, and who I want to be, and that kind of stuff. But anyway, I also don't work fast. I mean, in some respects I do, but a lot of times I don't. But also, and this is a stupid thing, but still healing from back surgery from my accident in July of 2021. And so I don't know that I can paint for 7-8 hours in a row. That's been a challenge for me. Usually I have to take a break and go do something else. But even also when I lived in Texas, based on the temperature outside, I would go stone carve in the morning when it was summertime, because 100 degrees for 5 months. I would carve in the morning and I would carve in the evening, and during the day I would come in and work on painting, and I'd work on marketing and writing articles and all the other things that you have to do to survive as a self-employed person. And anyway, so this is something does not look, even to me, like the rest of my body of work, okay? And that's intentional, because again, I'm trying to push myself, and every new work that I do, I want to learn something new. And I've been pretty consistent with that so far. I mean, it may not look new to other people, and it could be something new like, I've never painted a peony before, so I want to try to paint a peony. Okay, that would be something new. But it doesn't have to be huge, dramatic steps, but I just wanted to push myself. Now, this is a garden in Massarosa, Tuscany. It's a very, very small garden, and they're developing it for an ecosystem to study that and encourage wildlife, not wildlife so much, but wildflowers, and they have a little lake there. They have Japanese cherries, I'm missing my language, stuff like that. So they've been having these competitions, and I'm finding that some of these extemporaneas that they're doing, they actually, some of them keep all of the prizes. This one keeps all of the prizes. They give out 10 prizes at this competition. And I was shocked there were 50 artists there. But maybe 50, maybe it was 45 or something. I don't know. I didn't count. But my point is that the prizes aren't a lot of money. They're a lot, but not like when I sell my art I can get more money. But I thought, I'm going to go there, I'm going to challenge myself, I'm going to see if I can do this, but I really, really, really wanted to win. There's no guarantee for anything, but obviously you can see I've got the painting, which means I didn't win anything. And I was okay with that, because my feeling was that if you don't win #1 top prize, maybe prize #2, maybe prize #3, I've done a whole lot of work for nothing. So I decided I just didn't want to go and just sit there and paint whatever was in front of me. I was going to come up with a concept piece. So the theme was the colors of spring. So there you go. Nice, big, bright, happy colors, okay? That was the idea. Now, this happened on the 26th of April in 2026 we're in now. And the garden is not always open. So I had asked ahead of time with the organizer, when's the garden open? On Easter weekend. Okay, so I went with Easter weekend, and I photographed everything in the garden that I could do, knowing that I was only going to have a couple weeks to come up with a design, and I wasn't going to be able to go back to the garden and stuff like that. So anyway, this is a photo of their actual lake. This is the actual mountain that's in their distant, very, very distant view. These whole hills here and the little church thing and whatever. They have the Japanese things. They also had these little signs posted throughout the garden of all the different types of butterflies, the male-female version, the genus gnome, and all that stuff. And I photographed every one of those because if I put a butterfly into my composition, which they said they wanted, the colors of spring was the theme, they wanted stuff specific to their garden, they wanted, you know, something, because probably when they're keeping these paintings, they are going to put them on exhibits to promote the garden. They're going to try to sell them to fundraising collectors so that they can, you know, keep supporting their projects. So it had to be something related to them, okay? So they have a section of the park that has lotus, the lilies and the lotus flowers and all that. So I kind of referenced that in there. They have these fence lines. They're not purple, but that was part of my idea. They have these wooden fence that basically circle the entire little lake. So it was a distinctive feature in my mind. So anyway, I went into Photoshop with my photographs and I started plotting together the landscape in the background to give it context for it being Tuscany, the lake, because get blues and greens there. And as I'm collaging pieces, I came up with this idea about if you really want to win a competition, I think you put people in the picture, and that's impressive as well. Children are our future, and they're developing gardens, so planting trees. So these things are sort of, they're not a surprise element, they're not new, but I was trying to do something very, very different. And I think at some point I must have been surfing some kind of art site or something like that, or maybe one of the emails I get about from various galleries about stuff. I may have seen this idea with the outline of a shape and filling it in. It's not really a new idea, it's been around for a while, but if you see something in the right timing, it seems like you're supposed to get that message at that time, okay? So I was looking for an idea. So anyway, I went and found this outline of two children, and I like it because it suits my aesthetic of being asymmetrical. Even there's two spots of grasses here, one in front, one behind of her, and then there was this one in the grass and behind. He's standing, she's sitting, he's got the tools, she's doing the planting. You know, it just seemed like it was a really sweet thing, and you can see with the outline, that's probably going to be a girl, that's probably going to be a boy, so I got the equality in the mixture and all that kind of stuff. It just seemed like a sweet thing to do. Plus, I have a tendency to over-design, because for me, it's really, really fun to do something that's more complicated than not. And I tackle too much for this because, in effect, I actually didn't finish the painting before I had to submit it. So I got it mostly done, but I forgot entirely to outline this in black, so that was kind of weird. I outlined this and I just kind of spaced. But anyway, I did various things like that. This was not how the painting looked when I turned it in. So it had a darker, these were some pansies that I photographed in the village or something like that. But they had a dark purple, and what else? I lightened this, last night. I lightened all of this last night. That was a red tulip, but I lightened it. And I'll tell you why. Oh, wait, here. So this is my design. You can see in the computer, these are my actual photographs that I'm sort of putting together. I'm not really that good with Photoshop. I can get by with stuff. My brand of Photoshop is 2003, so it doesn't do any of the fancy bells and whistles. But really for my level of computer stuff, and I don't want to be a digital artist, you know, it's not physical enough for me. I don't want to sit down all day long and do stuff on a computer. It's not sexy. It's not touch. I don't get to touch when I'm on a computer. So anyway, this is my basic concept here. But when you squint your eyes, and you can also see in my black and white version here, and oh, this was funny. So I told the printer, getting my reference stuff, make this as large as you can on one sheet of paper without cutting anything off. So you can tell from my black and white design, maybe, I'm missing the whole lily thing over here. And I'm missing some of the fence stuff over here, but I'm not the kind of person to complain if I had actually even noticed. I think I was busy doing other stuff and I was just like, get in, get out, and do my thing. But anyway, this was the actual design. Now if you squint your eyes, you're going to see that there's not much difference in tone between these colors and these colors. You're going to have a dark here and there, you're going to have a light here and there, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's too busy. It's too busy, and it doesn't really show an actual subject. So for me, the main subject is the new life, okay? But I wanted to contrast them. So when I did wait, you can't see it with the flowers here, but I don't know if I can take that off. Yeah. So I did these little bozettos, these little mock-ups. And here I just kind of did this to help me decide how do I want to color this. And I did 2 of them in case I didn't like this first one, and then I wanted to do a different color theme. But then I realized I'm putting in way too much time for this, and I'm not going to be happy with what I'm doing. So let's just go with this. So this was what I did in acrylic paint to sketch it. And the idea was that I would make them lighter than the background, okay? And so when I got here, I mean, I like this. I like this bee that I put in here and all the little bump, the butterflies and stuff, and even this. But in the end, I decided that this is far too contrasty. So, and the thing is with the purples in her hair, I mean, I was running out of time by that time, and I was just like, just put in some kind of flowers so people get the idea, okay? So you can even see with the lavender. And it's weird because I actually like this Viking energy of this coming up into her like that. But the other night, when I was at the end of my day and I was really, really tired, all I kept thinking was, I really want to get this painting done before my art student comes back and uses this easel. But I'm just too tired to do anything intelligent. So what I want to do is I took a pale, pale yellow. I'm not a yellow person. Let me just say that. I'm not a yellow person. It's too happy of a color. It's too cheerful. It's too, for me, it feels superficial. So I don't really like it. I mean, I love it in lemons. I love it in nature. I love it in flowers. I like it in natural things, but I don't generally like it in art, which is funny because many years ago, and this is an aside and a Kelly sidetrack as I do, but I heard one time that yellow is the color of intelligence, emotionally speaking. So if you have a painting that's too much yellow, nobody will ever buy it. So that's such an odd thing to say, because I don't really believe in absolutes, first of all, but it's something that when somebody says an absolute, I tend to remember it, and then I search to see if there's any data to reinforce or to not reinforce that. But in general, I do like warm colors with the golds and the oranges, and I'm painting more orange now than I thought, which means I'm probably trying to tell myself, get to a happy place. So anyway, my point is that before I went to bed that night, I decided to paint over with this pale yellow, all of this dark purple, with the intent that when I come back in the morning, I'm going to have this tone is going to be lighter. So do you know what happened in the morning? What happened in the morning is that when I came up here, the idea that hit me was, I like the embossed look. I like the yellow on yellow, okay? I don't necessarily want a cold yellow like that one, but I don't want a dark yellow like this one either, because when I took a photograph of this, I'll try to put that in the video of the horizontal version. I don't know if I can do it on the vertical. Anyway, I'll try. I took a picture of this and put it in black and white, and I just felt like it doesn't matter if I make these warm colors and these cold colors. I'm calling pink in this sense a cool color, and even purple, although that's a warm purple instead of a cold purple. But in general, the blues, greens, pink family were over here, and I had the yellow oranges and a wee bit of red, although I decided to get rid of that. Oh, I also painted pink over this and this section because they were too dark. So, and also the entire tulip and this. You couldn't even really make out that this was a shovel handle because the tone was so similar. So in the black and white, I felt like I have no no-tan design. I have no real contrast going on, and it was just too much the same. So I wanted to push that because with my classical art training that I've done, and just even my own personal taste, it's tone that makes more things more exciting for me. I don't even care that much about color. I'm playing with colors these days because I'm trying to push myself, and if I feel weak in something, I usually go try to tackle that and see if I can get some kind of understanding on it until I get bored, because already my brain is thinking I really want to go back to monochrome, which is where I started 20-something years ago. But I love black and white. I love the asphaltum color, and anyway, I'm sidetracking again. But so this gave me the idea that what I really want to do is very similar to what I did on this project. Now, this is last summer. I won a local competition to paint a banner. So this was my painting here, and it got sewn into a banner for a medieval competition. And the theme of this is Saint Dorothy, who is the patron saint of this town, Pescia, in Tuscany. And the symbol for her is 3 apples and 3 roses. Technically, all the artists who have depicted her that I could find did all red roses and all red apples. But I wanted something more colorful because each of these symbols here is a stemma, the coat of arms of a certain neighborhood. There's 4 major neighborhoods in this town, and so they had to be in the banner. This is the church where the relic from this saint is here, so she's an important church there. And this turned out to be the prize. The banner is the prize for this archery competition, which is a palio in Italian. So the palio in Siena is a horse race, and the palio in Pescia, and actually one of the older men in town told me it used to be a horse race in Pescia also, but then they decided to change it to be nicer to the animals, and they made it into an archery competition, and I adore archery. So anyway, I did this competition, but if you can see here, put that maybe a little closer, this blue design was something that I found on the internet because I didn't want to do a gradation of blue for a sky above the church. I thought that would be a little bit too boring, and I was wanting some textures, and so I thought, let's stay within the theme of some flowers. And so I wanted to do you may not be able to tell, but this is a floral design. It may not be roses, but I wasn't that interested in that. I was more interested in putting a sky that had something to it. And then down here, some of these shapes I sort of made into clouds, okay, to sort of make a gradation into a more relative scene. So this is kind of the idea of what I decided here is I have a habit of being afraid to lose something I really, really like. I really, really love this bee, but I'm also a big fan of bees. This butterfly here I don't like because even though I tried to soften the edges of it and make this black a gray, it's still too distracting to put in the girl's head. So I don't like this. This now seems strong compared to what I did here. And I don't want to get rid of this because I like this. So I know myself. I could say I want to totally wipe this out and make this into this yellow burst of yellow on yellow flowers kind of thing and just make it all like that. But I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to pretty much take it down to here, leave this, and then later if I decide that it looks good like that and I like these spikes and whatever for different things. Okay, he's very consistent as far as it goes, but again, he's not fitting the theme. So I will probably do her with the new technique that I wanted, that this showed me. This is what I mean. Doing one thing to correct something you don't like can give you a fresh eye. Plus, I got a whole night's sleep, so that helped. So, and this has changed color. This was originally black, and then I took it white, and then I took it green, and changed this, and then, you know. So it's developing, and then I still have to decide what to do. But mainly that was the main thing. Mainly that was the main thing. God, can I get any more redundant? The idea developed slowly, 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 based on a lot of research, a lot of my efforts to go actually photograph things that I wanted to see, and then playing with collage is a really important tool. I know a lot of artists use it. I just don't always do that, and it's not something that I feel really comfortable with. But if I get a concept in my head, then I can sort of piece things together. And I can tell you when I came up with this, it wasn't really anything more than I want to put flowers, orange flowers, or yellow, or red. I wanted the warm colors inside the bodies of them. I later decided that red is too much in the palette. I want to stick with something that kind of goes better harmony together. So the magenta here works okay. And I kind of liked putting an orange thing outside of the children. And I wanted to put a cold thing. I had some magentas in here to be something from the outside coming in. So that was sort of another little sort of subliminal thing that I was thinking to put into there that would make a little bit of sense. So anyway, I'm going to keep working on this, but I thought it would be nice to explain that sometimes when you're painting or carving or creating in clay or whatever, anything you're doing creative-wise, even if you're writing a computer program, something will happen that when you come back to it the next day with some fresh eyes, you may totally see, ooh, that was the question that my brain has been asking, how do I solve this problem? And I don't know if that's going to be the answer, but I am going to give it a shot because I feel like it's the best thing to do. And I don't know. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you like this sort of content to give me feedback on what kind of videos you want me to make. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of my artwork. Like, comment, leave your questions below. I would love to have some feedback on what you think about stuff like this. And let me know. I will be coming to Norfolk, Virginia in September 2026. I'm going to have an exhibit there from September through December. And I'll be teaching some sort of workshop in September at the D-Art Center in Norfolk. So I'm really happy about that. We haven't decided on the subject yet, so again, if there's something you want to learn and you're in that area, please go ahead and drop a line down. Do you want anatomy? Do you want composition? Do you want more of how to come up with ideas and composition stuff? What is it that interests you? And I would really appreciate that. 2 yellows. The dark yellow is a transparent color. I don't know why, but this particular yellow is transparent. So I'm mixing it with this lighter white yellow so that, because anything with white in it is going to usually be opaque. And that way I can make a little more real estate here. So, and take the big thing. I'm not going to cover up this other, well, maybe I will. Because I kind of, I don't know. I have a case of indecision. Where are my glasses? Because I'm getting older. Oh, there they are. They were right in front of me the whole time. I need something to hold on to a lot of times. So my goal is to cover these other colors, at least make them muted, and at the same time stay in the lines in this case to not make my work more. See how transparent that is? It's knocking it down, but it's going to take a couple passes, so that's why I thought I should get started on this first and then get to work on doing writing a letter to a friend for his birthday that I need to do. Get that in the mail Saturday when I do my Misericordia service. This particular brush I had to trim off with the scissors, but I also know that when they make paintbrushes, they know the quantity that needs to go in to stay inside the ferrule. Ferrule, or I'm not sure what you call it. I'm really bad with labels. So you want to, I mean, let's be fair, I don't do a lot of housework because it's not where I want to put my priorities. And at times when I get in the mood to do it, I can totally lose a whole day because I usually make every project bigger than it has to be. And, you know, like cleaning in the oven and, you know, silly things like that. But what I'll do is I'll put a layer of paint on first, and then I'll let this dry quite well, because a lot of times when you find when the paint's wet, and this is true of oil paint as well, it just, oil paint has a longer timeline. Sometimes if the paint's too wet, you basically just end up fighting it, and you, as you try to put more on, oh, she said more on, I'm such a kid, you end up taking it off. So the nice thing with acrylic drying so quickly is I can minimize the time that I can actually take to get something done here. So with this being black here, and I said that, but then again, it doesn't take super long to, no, I don't want to go into the black outline, because I painted over that the other day to make the lines much stronger and better. And see, I feel like, oh, I was talking about paintbrushes. So yeah, so they know how many bristles they put into these things. So this one, some of them started coming out. And you can squeeze this at a certain point, but after a while, it's just like the brush is on its way out, I think. I don't know how to save them. If anybody knows how to save them once they get that way, I just kind of cut off the bristles so I can have a mark that I intend to make on my painting, and not, I mean, unless I'm doing something really where I want soft edges and stuff, I can do that with the bristles, that's fine. But if I'm trying to be precise, then I definitely don't need those stray hairs poking out and doing things I didn't intend for them to do. And so I just cut it off for now, but just tell myself that this brush may be giving me problems in the near future. Okay, so that area is a little bit too small. So do I want to, I still have paint on my canvas. Do I want to see, you know, I actually don't think that's such a bad effect with the girl. So I don't know, I may leave that for a while. But the other thing is, it's purple next to the purple. Do I want that? But lavender is purple. You can't really make a lavender a red color that I know of. Too much pepperoncino in my hot chocolate. I kind of like the effect of this, where you can tell they're flowers there. It gives a little bit of a texture thing, but it's not overwhelming. So I don't know. It could be that I sit with that and I realize I don't need to do a lot more to it. I just don't know at this point, but we'll see. It's a process, isn't it? So the thing is, do I want to say get rid of him? Part of me's like, oh, I don't want to get rid of it, I don't want to get rid of it. And then the other part of me thinks, you know, you have to, because this obviously contrasts. I squint my eyes, she's way lighter than the background, she's really sticking out, the girl is the focus now. He is a little bit more blended in. One could argue, do I want him to be there and her to be the focus? No, I don't. I want them equal and attentive. So the thing though is, I lightened up this, and it's definitely better than it was, but I also sort of feel like that's just too busy for his arm. So I really, and because of the time I was trying to get all this done, I didn't really put in a lot of detail, so I don't know to feel like, oh, I put so much work into that I can't get rid of it. I can get rid of it quite easily. So I keep saying so, and you know what I've said this in other videos, when I was a kid and I would say so, the way a lot of people say my mother would always respond, and I think my grandma did this probably to her, sew buttons on your underwear. And it just makes me laugh because it's like, do you need buttons on your underwear? Maybe you do. Maybe it was just a rhyme that came out sounding fun. These flowers, I didn't really develop it. They're like little plums or pears. I think it's a pear tree from a photo I took years ago. Or maybe I took it at this garden. I can't remember. I've got so many collections that... Okay, so before I just cover the whole thing, I want to stand back and evaluate, am I going in the right direction or did I make a mistake? Because if I made a mistake, this might be wet enough I could wash it off, but I don't think that would be it. But it would be like, do I really want to go more? See, this butterfly is a pale, pale yellow because I wanted it to be lighter, but I need something, at least a little bit of dark surrounding him to see that he's a butterfly. Otherwise, it's just going to be a regular, what is that, you know? I think that's going to work. I really do. And I've debated about turning some of this green into other colors, yellow or orange, but I don't know if you'd read it as leaves, but if you handle it like an embossing, where it's the same color on the same color kind of thing. Embossing's not the right thing, but you know, it's that effect. The monochromatic thing. I call it embossing because you can have a monochromatic with a low key, meaning there are darks of that color and there are lights of that color in the same composition. But I'm talking about doing something like embossing that's more of a subtle effect, which means slightly darker yellow, slightly lighter yellow in together. So in other words, a high key painting that doesn't have a big tonal contrast. That's really what I mean. Really like a background thing. So, so I did it again. So. Alright. But now I'm getting a little bit nervous about this big awkward brush. And that's another problem you have with acrylics, is every once in a while you get it where you get dry pieces stuck in there. And I also don't necessarily want this high textured, and I don't really like the bristles here, so you know, I used to sew my own clothes back when I was in high school and even university, and sometimes a little bit after that too. However, one of my problems is that I like to do too many things, and I'm slow, and like now, even more than before, I get distracted quite easily. So what that means to me is I don't get to do all the things I want to do. But even all the paintings, I have a cajillion painting ideas that I have never followed through with, and that bums me out. Have you heard of imposter syndrome? Sometimes I think I have that because I do volunteer work, taking people to medical appointments. I can't be in the ambulance like I used to be before my accident because I still am unable to lift heavy things. So that means that I can only take patients who are able to walk with a very minimal risk that they would fall. And the other day I took a lady who was 98 years old. I couldn't believe that. And she doesn't use glasses at all. Not to read, not anything. 98 and no glasses. Do you know, my friend Vasily Fedoruk was sculpting at his house, and I was up there in Chicago one time. And he was explaining, I said, oh, I didn't know you wore glasses. And he said, well, when you get to be about mid-40s, your eyes change. And, you know, me being the arrogant young kid, that's never going to happen to me. Never, never, never going to happen to me. I see really, really well, close and far, no problem. About 47, 46 maybe, I don't remember anymore. It started happening. Cavolo, what's this? Oh man, Vasily was right. That was really upsetting to me, but it is the beauty of youth. Do I want the flowers in the basket? Maybe. It might not be so bad, but I'll probably change my mind on that later. I don't want to get rid of the bee, but if I can lighten him up a little bit. So anyway, I need to quit doing my case of indecision and get on it. So I've got texture in there I don't like, and I don't want that to dry because this is acrylic, so it's going to dry quite quickly. Anyway, so I find I'm doing the volunteer service, and I like to help people, and I find that a lot of times that means that I don't get to do my own work that much. And that has me realizing that my priorities, though they seem honorable, they're really not helping me keep my life moving. And you know, I keep telling myself, when that Mack truck hits me, will I be happy with how I spent my life? Yeah, it's an evaluation. And I'm not going to say that I'm going to feel bad for putting people first, but on the other hand, to get really good at something, you kind of need to work at it. You know, it doesn't just, I mean, maybe to some people it seems like it comes easy to them, but if you really watch and look, and it's kind of weird because I've heard of enough artists, especially the ones that get to go on podcasts and things. I've heard a lot of artists say that, you know, oh, they spend their time listening to interviews about art. They basically live and breathe everything art, 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 and they read philosophy and different things like that. And I do too a little bit, but I can also find myself going down a rabbit hole. Now, if you're painting and listen to a podcast, obviously that would be a good use of it, but it really depends because sometimes your brain ends up following the words you're listening to and not thinking about what you're doing. But like something like this, I can talk right now to you because I get headaches from these. But I can talk to you about this because this is not rocket science. This is pretty much, every job has its thing that you can kind of do without necessarily being fully conscious all the time. So I can do this, but not everything is. So you have to be careful when you say you listen to podcasts while you're painting. I mean, I do. I listen to audiobooks because I like stories, but it started out that I wanted to write a book, a murder mystery. And I thought it would be a smart idea that, even though I have an English major and I studied Shakespeare and diagramming sentences and all the things that I thought was fun and wonderful, and my favorite class was music and literature. I wrote a paper on Scheherazade, and I had to explain how the music told a story. And the other students had other projects, obviously, but some of them took a story and had to describe how it's musical. I mean, you could even take Shakespeare, because when you read his works out loud, the poetry, the rhythm of the words and stuff makes it musical. But the class was fascinating to me because you talk about things like how the chorus repeats and you get to a theme, or if you want to say, in my case, from what I remember about what I wrote, you know, when Scheherazade's speaking, you're going to get a certain melody. They do this in films all the time, actually, but I wrote this paper when I was probably 19 years old. No, maybe I was 18. I can't remember if that was my second or third year in college, or I don't know. Anyway, you do certain kind of things that you can tell, because, you know, with the story of Scheherazade, it basically every day the king who married her basically had a habit. And I may misquote this because it's been years and I've forgotten a lot of things I used to know very well, but basically this poor girl Scheherazade ended up marrying this king, I think he was, who was sort of like Henry VIII. He sort of had his way with the girl. It's like he liked the beginning of the relationship, but he didn't necessarily like, he didn't see the beauty of commitment, is what I call it. When you go through things with people and you become closer because of what you've gone through together, tackled together, or maybe something happened to both of you at the same time, and so you navigated together, I guess. It doesn't have to be a bad experience, but a lot of times it is. But my point is that he used to off the women the next day, after the honeymoon thrills. And she decided she didn't want to die, and so she would just tell a story every day, but not finish it, and that way he would be enticed to come back the next day and hear the story. So she would then tell more of the story and then add something new and not finish it, so that the next day, and so that was the way that she ended up managing to live. So the music, every time when she would speak, that would be her talking, it's outside of the story she's telling, and so they had a different music. And I love that, writing that paper, because I took out my flute and I got the sheet music out of the library at the university, and I would play that so that I could come up with my concepts of what I was going to write about. And really, really a fun project. But it was interesting to realize that, yes, it worked for me because everything is related. But I do remember the professor saying that centuries ago, music and literature were one art. And it's probably because you had oral stories, and you had people always playing music, and so probably they put the stories to music, and so that would make they were one thing. You had to make the stories were told in musical ways, is what I mean. But each of the arts has its own language, has its own alphabet. I mean, so yes, there are crossovers. I was talking to my former husband, John Borsheim, the other day for his birthday, and he's been studying anti-gravity and coming up with some ideas for this kind of stuff, and it really interests me. But it was funny. The remark that I remember is that he said, he was talking about the universe expanding, and I said, expanding into what? Because we believe that the universe is infinite. So I've always had the problem, how do you get to the edge of the universe and realize you're not at the edge, because it's not. It's infinite, so it keeps going. How do our little pea brains understand the concept of infinity? We can work with it in mathematical equations and stuff, like what I studied in college and stuff, but how do you actually conceive there is no border? It just keeps going and going and going and going and going and going, and how does that work? And he's said a comment like, well, if you're going to be stuck with that, then, I don't know how to get on to this next part of the theory I'm working on. And so I don't know, I want to ask him again, how have you gotten over, or do you just tell your brain, accept that there is no border, that the universe is expanding? Because it's really difficult. If it's expanding, what's it going into? What was there before? Is it like a brain tumor inside of a locked skull, that if the brain tumor gets bigger, your brain has to get crushed down? I'm thinking of my friend Annie, who has been an amazing miracle and survived. It's been over 20 years now, maybe even 30 now, since she was taking my class when she had this brain tumor, and the x-ray she showed me was stunning. But she just came to Florence, Italy with her husband last September, and we met up and we had a wonderful time together, and she's just one of my heroes. And I had another student who had a brain tumor, and she is now, I think, 99 years old, Mary. Hers was smaller, it was up behind the nose, so they went up and did a surgery, took everything out. But I know 2 people who've survived brain tumors for many, many years now. And that gives me a lot of thrill and hope and happiness for them, for their families, for me, thinking of them and stuff like that. So anyway, so this is, you see the process I'm getting on here is, I'm just going to keep going back and back. I like how this is looking. It kind of makes me wish that I had done what I originally thought was that I should develop these flowers really, really well and then paint over this. But at least if this works and I like the effect of it, I can then decide, okay, I can go rework some of the flowers, develop them a little more, but keep it all in a high key, slightly darker yellow, slightly lighter yellow kind of thing. So that's how it's going to go. I'm going to shut you off now just because I need to go to the loo. Too much information. But I don't want to talk anymore and I really want to focus on this. So thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Please. Thank you. What do you think of this now? Do you see, this is what I was talking about with process, that once I actually got the yellow covering all this stuff, now I don't like the lavender so much. I want it to be consistent. I have to finish also the tulip, but I like the effect of this, and you see now that they really, really pop out. Maybe that's what I want to do, or maybe I want to make it a darker yellow so it's not quite so contrasty, but I feel as though it has a clear statement in it, a clear focus, if that makes any sense. So put your comments down below and let me know what you think about it. Thank you so much, and I'm going to keep painting.